You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengelt.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whenever you're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, we are so happy to have you with us. Today is November 27th, 2024. It's a Wednesday, so it's another day for the Central Indiana Sports Report. I'm your host, Greg Mengelt. I'm here with Michelle Garmon, and we are late today because we have been podcasting since 8:30 this morning, and now it's 2:30 in the afternoon.
And things you do so you can enjoy a holiday.
That's right. We are trying to get everything done as quickly as possible so we can have a holiday and still bring you quality content. That said, this scoreboard is going to be a little shorter than most of them. Not only did we not have a ton of games, but we're going to kind of zip through them right here. We do have Grant Shouse from the Action Sports Network coming up at the end to talk about Marion and Elwood, but we talked about other things, so instead of just putting it after the Elwood-Marion game, I stuck it at the end, and you can listen to his whole report on Central Indiana sports and IU.
Yes, yeah, we did veer off topic, so it's good that he goes to the end.
That's right. But we are so glad to have Grant with us, and also Mickey Hosier is coming up to not only talk about their win over Anderson Prep and being 7-0 for the first time in 21 years, but also about Wednesday's big game against Lapel. All right, let's start at Elwood, where Elwood took its first loss after a 6-0 start with a 57-37 loss to Marion. For Marion, two freshmen combined for 44 of their 57 points. Naomi Hahn had 23, Jaylee Townsend 19 for the Giants.
Yeah, we knew that Marion was going to be Elwood's toughest test to date, and they've got athletes. And it looks like with these two freshmen that, wow, it's nice for the Giants because it looks like they're going to rejuvenate their girls basketball program that at one time.
Well on their way.
Yes, that one time was really strong and then fell off and just wasn't. And it looks like now they're back. And I think part of that was for a while they had a hard time finding a coach that would coach and could, and stayed with it. And I think they've got everything in place now.
They've won more games this year than they won last year, just like Elwood.
Yeah. For Elwood, it's tough because you can't simulate that kind of athleticism in practice. Because probably the best athlete quickness that you can simulate is your point guard in Breland Norris. And so, but you don't have somebody as quick to guard her for her to have to guard when you're, doing it. And even if you bring in some boys, if they're not super quick, it's still even sometimes hard to emulate that. But Elwood has nothing to be ashamed of because it was a 20-point game. They did not. Yeah. It wasn't a blowout.
No.
And they needed to face a team like Marion because, they're going to get Oak Hill and Oak Hill.
Talk about athletes.
Talk about athletes, and I remember a couple of years ago when I went over to watch the Oak Hill and Elwood game, and that Oak Hill just pick and rolled and screened Elwood to death. And Kendra Salee made a comment in your interview with her after the Cowan game about how she was talking the screen and roll, and because they haven't done a lot, and that's going to be coming up, and it is. They'll see that with Oak Hill a little bit, and but they'll see a good team. So it was good. So now Elwood got to see a good opponent, got to see where areas they need to improve upon, and they can go do that. And I'm sure Coach Licklider and her staff have told the kids, this is what, we got to get better here. We're still not, even though they're winning, sometimes it takes a loss for those kids to really say, oh, you're right, this, and focus in. So the good thing for Elwood is they have, am I not right? They have a little bit of time to get ready now before they have to worry about that next game.
Yeah, and one of the things Grant, and we talked about with Grant, was we kind of went through the schedule and said Elwood might have a chance to win double-digit games this year.
Yes. I think, right around 500, a little over 500. I mean, if everything falls right, they should finish a little over 500. But even if, say, illness hits them or something, I don't think they would finish any worse than one game under 500. And I think that would be somebody like losing Norris or losing Salee for 2 or 3 games might drop them down that way.
Sure.
But if not, there's no reason that they aren't above 500.
Jacqueline Hosier had another big night with 32 points. She became second on the all-time scoring list for Alexandria, passing Jackie Klosser. Of course, Jody Howell is the only 2,000-point scorer in program history. Alexandria, as I said, is 7-0 for the first time since 2002, 2003, when they started 22-0. Lily Harp scored 11, and Kylan McFall had 8 points for Alexandria, which has its biggest test of the year on Wednesday against Lapel, the team that's eliminated from the tournament the last 2 years.
Yes, but this is not the same Lapel team that's eliminated them from the tournament the last 2 years. But it's still, it's that team you want to get over the hump, that team that in your mind. And Lapel does still have Linnea Wills. And,
We're going to hear about her performance last night, too.
I guess Garen?
Yes.
The thing is, and I am a firm believer in this, is, and she is good. But if she gets hers, if you can keep other players from doing something, going off big, Taylor Miraz was the difference in that Frankton game. And for Lapel to be the Lapel team that's eliminated Ellick, like in the sectional for 2 years in a row, they've got to have they've got to have one or two other girls become consistent supporting cast for Wills. I mean, you can always have all those other bit players that play their roles very well, but you have to have to really be good. You need to have, I think, a secondary score, consistent secondary score, and I think that's probably what hurt Ellick against Lapel in previous. And I think Ellick is still trying to find that consistent secondary score too. So that makes tonight's game interesting. I will say this, having watched Lapel on Friday, I just think Ellick's press and the way they go after and scramble, I think it's going to give Lapel fits a little bit. They're going to have to bring Wills back to help handle that press. And when you do that, I think that if you as long as you can keep her outside the lane where she's not real effective on offensive rebounds, the better off you are. As long as you don't leave her wide open to knock down jumpers. But, if you can make her have to come out and help on the perimeter, I think it's a benefit.
And here's Coach Hosier talking about Tuesday's win and Wednesday's game. All right, Coach, 7-0. Tell us about the win last night.
Yeah, APA 6-2. We know they have a couple weapons. Obviously, Olivia Peoples is a good player, and she got in some quick foul trouble. And I thought we played really clean last night and made shots. And obviously, our pressure hurt them, and it kind of got out of hand quickly.
Who played well for you, Coach?
Jacqueline had 32 and shot it really well. And when you beat a team like that, everybody plays pretty well. Lily and Jacqueline, Lily Harp she's been just kind of that second scoring force for us all year. And she was the same last night. And I thought the person that's just really played well the last couple of games for us has been Riley Kellums, our center. She's just been so consistent and really just taking it upon herself to just be that third scorer and getting to the offensive glass and finishing. And so I told her last night, I'm just excited for her because she's kind of put the work in and it's paying off.
All right, and then big one on Wednesday, the team that's eliminated you the last couple of years. How are you looking at this game heading into it on Wednesday?
Yeah, I told our girls it's hard for me to say, like, it doesn't really mean anything to our season. They're not in our sectional. They're not in our conference. And I'm just not going to be able to convince our team that. So they know it's kind of become a rivalry, and they've got the best of us, the last 3 or 4 times. And I just think it's 2 good programs playing each other. And, obviously they have Lanaya and we have Jacqueline, and so um, that's a good kind of matchup to look at too as well. And then yeah, it's just like we've kind of taken care of business, and they're in a little bit of a different place because they lost people, and so I think it's for both programs just a good game to just gauge where you're at in the season. It's going to be a big time atmosphere and great crowd here tonight, and so yeah, we're excited about it.
Speaking of Lapel, the Bulldogs won their third straight game last night, 69-54 over Garin Catholic. Lanaya Wills had 31 points. Taylor Morose, 11. Sophie Goodwin, 10 in the win. Ava Bills continued her hot play for Garin with 20 points. Lapel is now 4-3. Garin is 2-3.
Yeah, that was to get those kind of contributions for Lapel to around Wills is tremendous. I know that Coach Newby was a little bit concerned about preparing for Garin, after Frankton, and that's what they were focused on. And then he said they would turn their attention to Ellick. But good win for Lapel because, they're at the stage, they're good, but you don't really know how good they are. Garin is a team they should beat. So they did. So that is good. It's just for Lapel is developing that consistency. I think by the end of December, we'll probably know exactly how good or how far Lapel could probably, go. Like I said, I know that Lapel is good, and that sectional, I'll tell you, it's kind of makes you sit there and think, gosh, Lapel, Sheridan, and two standout players. I mean, and then.
Well, let's go to Sheridan, Michelle, since you brought it up. Sheridan is 4-1 after beating Western Boone 59-15 on the road Tuesday. Kinsey Garner, 20 points, 14 rebounds, 4 steals, and 3 assists for the Blackhawks. And Cecilia Timmy finished with 15 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals. They shot 51% from the field and had 21 assists on 24 baskets. Michelle, Nova Cross led the team with 7 assists.
Yeah, Sheridan is they're pretty good, and Jalen, like I said, she's just done a wonderful job. Of course, Gardner is kind of like Wills and like
Jacqueline.
Like Jacqueline makes that team go. The engine that makes that team go. I will say this: the difference is that I think Sheridan. I know they can win without Gardner some games. Now, not top-notch games, but they can win, and I'm not sure if the other two can, and I say that because Sheridan knows what their supporting cast. They've kind of settled in, and they know their roles, and they know what they're getting, and that's huge. They're probably of like when we talk about, which I would say because they have the players they have, that Sheridan and Lapel and Ellick are the best teams, especially the 2A teams in our area. So they're the most gelled team at this point. Let's put it that way.
Just want to remind everyone that we will have a girls basketball scoreboard on Thursday with Wednesday's games and Friday's previews. Same with the boys as well. Just because it's Thanksgiving doesn't mean there won't be a Central Indiana Sports Report. And in fact, I think we got about 5 segments tomorrow, including our CIC boys basketball preview, college football talk with Eric Robinson, Michelle, and Will Rutherford, boys and girls basketball podcast, and we will have our state finals preview with the Indianapolis Stars' Kyle Neddenrip.
Yes, and I mean,
big day for the Central Indiana Sports Report.
It is, and we need to give a special thanks to Kyle Neddenrip for making time for the podcast this morning. He's a very busy guy. I mean, he does a lot. He covers a lot. He gets around to a lot of places and does
a fantastic job.
Yes, and he's a wonderful writer. I think he does a really great job. So if you get a chance, guys, I mean, read his stuff, with Indianapolis Star. He knows his high school sports. He knows his athletes. He's wonderful to talk to. And I look forward to having him on more often.
Sophomore Alexis Field scored 16 points, and Yorktown won a classic over rival Delta, 47-46, to improve to 3-2. Delta got 14 points from Griffin Knight and is now 4-3.
Yeah, that's a big win for Yorktown because they're coming off.
Young team, too.
Yes, and I mean, they're coming off that volleyball, and I know there's not, I don't think, a lot of crossover, but there's still some.
Claire Hazen, for sure.
Yeah.
Just played her first game last night.
Yeah, so there's still some crossover, and even if you don't, it's hard to shift gears because, you got an excitement in the school because your volleyball team's going to state, and, you got Miss Volleyball and the whole Charlotte Vincent thing and everything. So for Yorktown, early in the season, like that's a big win for them. Rivalry, a conference, not only backyard rival, it's a conference rival.
And Oak Hill bounced back from its first loss of the season with a 60-37 win over Southwood in the first game of a girls-boys doubleheader. Oak Hill had 18 assists and 17 steals in the win. Senior Liz Godfrey led the Eagles with 14 points. Morgan Cates and Landry Hardman scored 9 apiece, and Cates had 4 rebounds. The Golden Eagles are now 5-1. Southwood is 2-3. And our only game on Wednesday is Lapel Alexandria, which we've already previewed. Michelle, thoughts on Oak Hill? Looks like they're legit.
Yes, it does. And, Oak Hill it's a good girls basketball program. It's been strong. And really, Courtney Moses turned the tide there at Oak Hill, her stretch when she was there. And then, of course, went on to Purdue and outstanding career. But that program, and it sustained quite a bit. I know they've had a couple down years, but you're going to. I mean, unless you're a 4 or 5, unless you're a 4A power or a high 3A power. But, Oak Hill goes back and forth from 2 and 3A. So, yeah, it was Oak Hill's good. They're going to be good, and,
Looks like they're the challenger to Alexandria for the conference.
yes.
All right, Michelle, thank you so much for doing this. We're going to also have you have a report from the Tipton Tri-Central game. We also heard from both coaches in that one, plus Elwood head coach Ryan Van Skyok. So we will have a boys basketball scoreboard coming up a little later this evening, hopefully in time for you to listen to on your way to Wednesday's games.
There you go.
Thank you for listening, everybody. And don't forget to like, subscribe, or follow us on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, SoundCloud, Spotify, or YouTube. All of our podcasts are now streaming on YouTube as well. And if you wouldn't mind, do us a huge favor and tell a friend and go give us a 5-star rating.
Yeah, expand, let people know. You can tune in, and I hope you like it. I think we've done a nice job of bringing a lot of information, getting coaches to contribute, and
they've been fantastic, especially for basketball.
Yes, and we've had some fun. I mean, it's some fun debates and everything. And if you enjoy listening to podcasts, give us a listen, and I think it'll be fun. We we report the scores, and then we have kind of some fun, a little bit of analysis. We're not quite as nitpicky or however like some of the other podcasts are out there.
Or the newspapers. They've got to be perfect. We don't. We just talk.
Exactly.
But most days when I do the scoreboards, we have a little more details. But today is just a little different because of the holiday. We have now officially been podcasting for 6 hours and 10 minutes, Michelle. So we got a lot of cool stuff coming up for everybody. Again, our CIC preview, our college football weekly. George Bremer is going to be coming up a little later this afternoon to talk some Colts. We got all kinds of cool things going. So this is your reminder that the Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and also that I love Susie.
Yes, he does.